Hello everybody, and welcome to the Idiot's Guide to How to Play an Arcanist. I am your local idiot, and if you find anything in this guide very helpful and want to contribute back to me, just remember the best forms of payment you can possibly give to an idiot like me are head pats and ear rubs. The Idiot's Guide is pretty simple. I'm not going into rotations, I'm not going into consumables, I'm not going into the perfect way to play a class. It's very basic. If you have no idea what you're doing playing a class, then I'll show you simply how to do your job. And that's about all there is to it, because for 99% of all content in the game, as long as you have a basic understanding of how to do your job, then you're already ahead of 90% of the other players in the game. Now, unfortunately, we are starting off with one of the more complex jobs, and I'm only going to go over what this class has up to level 30. Because by the time you get up to level 30, you should be pretty close to unlocking your advanced job. At that point, you're going to be playing these classes very little, if ever. So there may be some abilities that unlock for your class past 30, but I'm not going to be showing them off here. Now, Arcanist is not the most difficult job in concept. Like other ranged magic classes, you have a couple basic attacks that you need to weave in, but where it becomes more complicated is when you deal with your summons. He's a cute little guy. But pretty much you're going to always want to have your carbuncle out, because so much of what this class has is all around having carbuncle out so that you can get access to a number of different abilities. Everything from our ether charge to our different summons to gem shine, precious brilliance. We'll get into all that, but none of that unlocks until you start combat. So just start up combat. And you can use your basic ruin attack. I got ruin 2, but that's because it upgrades later on. So you'll start off with ruin 1 and it'll just turn into ruin 2 eventually. You've also got your energy drain if you just want to start combat instantly. Though energy drain and fester are pretty good to weave in between a bunch of different things you're going to do later. Fester used to combo off of your dots, your damage over time effects that you would get as an Arcanist in previous versions, but as you can see, there are no dots left on this class. So these days, it seems like it's just a basic damage ability that you can just weave in between your other abilities. Now that combat is actually started and we have a target, let's get into where the job sort of shines, and that's your ether charge. When you trigger your ether charge, your ruin and your outburst are going to deal more damage for 15 seconds. Alright? Now at the end of that, there it goes, and then we have 15 seconds. For the next 15 seconds, both of these abilities are going to deal more damage. Your single target ruin attacks are going to deal a decent amount more damage. The outburst will also deal more damage, but not quite as much. But once the effect ends, that's when you get your summons out. So the important difference that you're going to get between these three, when you use any of them, your carbuncle will change out for the other carbuncle and do his own attack. But more importantly, your gem shine and precious brilliance change into new attacks. Now for the ruby, you get long cast, right? Full cast, full recast timers. They're your strongest ones. They do the most damage, but you have to fully cast them. Now for your topaz, what you're going to end up with is 4 charges instead of 2 to use them. Now it also has instant cast, but it has the long recast timers. Just like the ruby, it takes just as long for your recast timer to spin back up as on the topaz. But it does do a decent amount of damage, and it's an instant cast. Your emerald, on the other hand, this one also has instant cast, but the recast timers are faster. so you can get off more attacks quicker. But that is where the rest of your kit starts to come in more handy, which is, as you may notice, outside of the ruby, which has hard casts and long casts, you don't end up with a lot of long-term abilities. You end up with a lot of instant cast type abilities that you get off really quickly, and then you sort of have long down times while the GCD is spinning, right? So that is where you can like instant cast and then pop an energy drain, and instant cast, then pop a fester, instant cast and pop another fester. You can start weaving your attacks in there. Just moving around while you're going. Remember, your topaz and your emerald are the ones where you can sort of move around and just throw out instant casts at them. Topaz is going to be a bit more strong, the emerald is a bit weaker. But really, you're going to want to be using all of these as you go, and just keep going with your ether charge. Right? Keep going, keep your ether charge and your summons spinning as much as you can. Keep them on cooldown as much as you can, because that's where your biggest damage output's going to come from, is using these summons and then using the attacks that you get off of them. And also, you want to make sure that you're keeping your ether charges and your festers going in between. And that's basically how you're going to be playing the class. Now for certain specific use case type things. You have a heal. It's the most basic heal that anyone gets in the game pretty much. Doesn't do much. For your first 30 levels when you're working with your class, it'll be decent enough, especially if you're doing stuff solo. You can keep your own health sort of up a bit with this heal. If you're in any content with a light party or even bigger, you generally just want to let the healers deal with keeping people's health up, because that's not really your job. You also get Radiant Aegis. As long as your carbuncle is out, you can keep this one on cooldown. You get it every 60 seconds, and it gives you a shield. It provides you a shield for 30 seconds that absorbs 20% of your own HP worth of damage. So just keeping a shield up on yourself, just remember, it lasts 30 seconds and its cooldown is 60. So it can be worth it if you know something is coming up that may hit hard to save it for that time, but otherwise the cooldown's not that bad, so really just kind of keep it going whenever you can. You also get your Lucid Dreaming. That's simple enough. If your MP gets down below about 8,000, pop Lucid Dreaming and it'll keep your MP up high. Not difficult at all. You get Addle. This one will lower the amount of damage that your enemy can do, but it only lasts about 10 seconds. It's very niche. Don't use it too often, but maybe against bosses and things like that it can come in handy to just sort of pop this onto a boss. If you know the boss is about to do something pretty big, it can help. But it's got a decent cooldown, 90 seconds, and it only lasts 10 seconds. So unless you know the boss is about to do something that could be dangerous to your party, I hardly ever use it. You might find a place to use it. The really great thing you're going to get off of Arcanist is you are one of the only DPS classes, and I do mean classes. Once you get to jobs, there's a few more. But class-wise, you're, I believe, the only DPS class that has Swift Cast and Resurrection. Now, other mages will have Swift Cast, but unless they're a healer, they're not going to have a raise ability. And so that's a very good one to have, because if you're in a dungeon and your healer isn't able to raise people, or your healer is the one who goes down, you can raise them. Alright? And you can do it very quickly, because you can Swift Cast, And then this isn't going to work here because I don't have a good target for it, but you can cast Resurrection and it's an instant raise. So that has been known to save multiple times over groups that I've been doing content with, where the healer goes down or the healer's doing something and one of the other people is down and they've already used their swift cast, and so I just pop swift cast and raise them and we just keep going. That's really all the important stuff that you need to know on Arcanist, right? Aside from that, the only thing I didn't mention is sleep, which is not the most useful thing in the world. When you're doing stuff solo, sleep can be good because it's an AoE, so you can put a group of enemies to sleep that you accidentally pulled and then sort of take them on one-on-one. But really, that's about all there is to know about Arcanist. Now remember, this is a very basic guide. Anyway, for now, I'll be seeing you guys later. Thanks for hanging out.